Good morning. So, this is where we ended last time. We have our little player sprite that we can move around with the arrow keys. And we have a fake mouse cursor sitting just under the real mouse cursor right there. It doesn't move with the mouse. So, today the big thing is going to be seeing if we can get the mouse cursor, the virtual mouse cursor, to move with the mouse, and then try to hide the real mouse cursor when it's over the canvas. I'm going to make a couple changes to this window. If you go down to the server folder in index.js, create window, I want the initial size to be bigger. Because I noticed the very first thing I keep doing when I open the window is make it bigger. So let's skip that and go ahead and open the DevTools every time because we are doing so much debugging right now. It's like, just because of the nature of JavaScript, there's some errors you're just not going to see until you run the thing. So yeah, it's bigger. Wish this didn't have to be so big. Like, can we keep it like that? Is that an option? Let's try ranking it again. Okay, so it remembers the last setting. That's good. Probably don't need to dump the tile set to the log anymore. Usually as soon as I delete a console log like that, something happens where I have to bring it back. Which is why you'll see so many of these are just commented out in my code. Alright, so we need to get the mouse, the virtual mouse cursor moving around. And I'd like to demonstrate one of the problems with, okay, so the easiest solution, you might think, is to just move the virtual mouse cursor to the mouse position. Here's how that goes. So, it's because the real pixels are so much smaller than the virtual pixels that doesn't quite work the way that we want. It needs to scale, and the scaling needs to account for the fact that sometimes those black bars are on the top and bottom, and sometimes they're on the left and right. Now what I'm going to do to start this experiment, way back when I wrote a convert position function for solving basically the same problem, and we're going to see if I can use it as is or if we'll need to adjust it at all. And let's see. We need to get the canvas from the display file, the display library. Let's move this whole function into the display library. I don't want to expose a bunch of properties that generally aren't needed. And I think we have a context object that holds the canvas. So yeah, if the width is greater than the height, then basically it's not the monitor, the window is horizontal. So the aspect ratio is width over height, basically. But if the window is vertical, then the aspect ratio is height over width. It actually took me a long time to get this math just right, and I hope that it simply works, but there's always something that has to be adjusted, so we'll see. Converting between coordinate systems can get sticky. Okay, let's try this. Except I'm not actually using the function yet, so that's not going to change anything. Okay, cool. Convert position. I actually want to do... Oh. We want to do that. Alright, let's see what it does. Okay. That actually makes me really happy. We're gonna have to take care of that pixel clipping problem. Or the way it's because this two-dimensional display is a one-dimensional array of pixels, so if you write past the width of one row, it doesn't clip it, it just moves it to the next row. Which is usually okay, and I'm just not sure if I want to... I don't want to put those boundary checks in the getPixel function, because then we'll be doing a boundary check on every single pixel writing operation, which is not worth the performance penalty. So instead we're going to put it in the draw sprite function. Draw tile. So if it's less than 0, we're going to continue because the next one might be greater than 0. If xs is greater than or equal to the width of the screen, we're going to break. Because if this one's greater than the width of the screen, the next one will also be greater than the width of the screen. And we can do the same check for the rows. There we go. Let's see what that looks like. YS is not defined. Okay, fine. And that can also be a constant. Okay, height is not defined. Okay, anything else? Oh, well, that's kind of weird. Well, that's kind of weird too. Going up like that should not be clipping from the bottom up. What am I missing there? We're going up. It's starting at like a y of -1. So it should skip the first row. It's the continue. It comes back around. Now yd is 1. Oh. It's because we also, in addition to doing the continue, we also need to increment index past that first row. Like that. I think that will help. And the same thing here. Increment, except this, you just have to increment past this pixel that you're not drawing. That way it's not drawn on the next round of the loop. And there we go. That one works. And that works. That's still weird. Moving off to the left works, but moving off to the right is weird. Because this also needs to increment past whatever is left of the row. Oh, but how many pixels are left in the row? Well, that would be... that would be that, I think. And then we increment the index over that. Okay. And again. There we go. Now what I would like to do, and I'm not sure how hard this is going to be, if the mouse is over the canvas here in the middle, I want to hide the operating system mouse cursor. This might be a CSS problem. Can I do that? Auto default none. I think we want none. Been reading some documentation on this, and that is not guaranteed to work on every operating system, from what I could tell. But there you go. The OS mouse is visible in the black section, but over our canvas it just disappears, and there's our virtual mouse. That's actually pretty cool. Ha! really like that. Wonder if I'll end up changing the mouse cursor at all. It's okay. There's not a whole lot you can do with an 8x8 tile. It might just be good enough for this tile. We're going to call it good enough. I'm not even sure. I'm not completely sure how it's going to interact with the game yet. Okay, we're going to do a little experiment. See if we can use the mouse to pick up the player and move them. And for that trick, let's see, how do I want to do this? I don't want to overthink it, but decisions I make early on in developing a game like this, I may or may not have to regret them 3 months from now. I still consider a rule, though, that anything I wrote 3 months ago can probably be written better. I think I'm going to proxy all these event handlers. And I actually need to do that. Assigning it directly like that has other consequences, like you can only have one. You can have multiple event listeners, but if you assign it directly, like you can only assign one thing like that. So, doing something a little different with the mouse move event, I hope. I'd like to do this. Can we get away with that? Let's find out. Oh no! Only has a getter. Well, since we're in JavaScript, we can kind of cheat. Object doesn't like me overwriting his property. I'm going to make a new object with the same properties. Oh, what was that format? we're going to go ahead and say that this is a mouse event. I want to be able to use the mouse event properties because that's kind of a standard, even though it's not a mouse event object. If we come in later and try to use another one of these and we get a null error, it just means we need to proxy that bit of the event over. Got the mouse move. We went mouse down and mouse up because we want to build drag our player around. That would be so much fun. Doing the same trick at the position. Let's see. E here is also a mouse event. Does this have buttons? Let's go ahead and make all those the same. Okay. So now we need to know, is the mouse hovering over the player sprite? And we need to know if the left mouse button is pressed. And based off of that, oh, we don't need to convert the position. I want to know, I want to be able to tell if the sprite contains a particular position inside of its bounds. Of course, we don't currently have the concept of any kind of bounds. JavaScript has a rectangle class, doesn't it? I'm not sure. I usually implement it myself. Checking my notes here. We are going to pull these rectangle endpoint classes out of my other project. Just a second while I create a math library. So first of all, I forget, does JavaScript have a read-only syntax? Is that a thing? I cannot remember. No, I don't think it does. I mean, it kind of does. But you have to go through a lot of extra effort, and it's not worth it. Commenting things properly is worth it. Thing I like to do with these classes like this point class, I don't like modifying their internal state. A point should always be referring to that same point in space. So to change your point, you generate a new point. I want to make something private. Okay, hash prefix. So you just do that, and those should now be private, I think. Taking out the setters, because like I said, once the point is created, I don't want it changing. I think that'll do for now. And we gotta do something similar with the rectangles. Rectangles are also going to be, like, once you assign them, then that's what they are. When you change your rectangle, you create a new rectangle. No setters. right, top, bottom, center X, center Y. Eventually, we are going to have to come back and comment this. I might do that, like, offline. Don't be all stuck watching me comment all this code. But if I do that, it'll all go up to the Git repository. I'm looking for this more math thing. Math. And that does not need to be in the class. I don't know why I did that before. It made sense at the time. Doesn't make sense now. Alright, and then that needs to be handled in here. Wait, what? From more math. Okay. There. Now we have a math library. Easy peasy. So, I want this thing to have... Well, here's a problem. X and Y position is going to keep moving. Here, I know I'm going to do this. Turn new rectangle. XY width height. There we go. Now we have the bounds, so now we can go back here. Then we need to actually do this. Wire up the event handlers. Now, if the left mouse button is being pressed and the player bounds contains the mouse cursor, we're going to log that you picked the player. Well, that didn't work. I think I imported the wrong thing. Let's check that. Alright, and again. Well, now what? Oh, right. .js. Requested module does not provide an export named clamp. Oh, no. Because I haven't written that one yet. I wrote is in range. Alright. Position is not defined on mouse move. Well, we don't need to log that anymore. So I'm clicking around with the left mouse button, getting nothing. Let's try the player. Still nothing. Really? Also, I'm noticing that the player is not moving around when I press the keyboard buttons anymore. Alright, let's debug. I said this is generally bad practice, but it was working, so for now we're going to do it anyway. X, Y, tile width, tile height. I mean, that should be the bounds. Contains left, right, top, bottom. You know, the X is between left and right, Y is between top and bottom, is in range. Looks right. Let's log all of that and see if anything starts making sense. So we got the mouse cursor at 5657, got a rectangle with those four properties, and it's returning false. Well, that's silly. It's like it's returning the opposite of what I would expect. The bounds are correct. Gonna log those two values also. See where this is breaking down. like it's at 58, 57. But, move it to this part of the player. Oh! One thing is I'm calculating the bounds of the player incorrectly. Because I'm not taking the size into account. The player is the width and height of 2 tiles, not 1. So let's fix that first. Width and height are now 16. Still doesn't explain all the falses I'm getting. Is in range. The value. Inclusive min. Exclusive max. Well, technically we should probably be adding a 1 there since it's exclusive. But let's go ahead and break that down too. That's just rude. Alright. Undefined. I was not expecting to see an undefined there. Undefined less than or equal to 57. This that left is returning undefined. Oh, there's the bug. Late bound languages are so fun. Oh, there it is. We have picked the player. We are almost done here. Alright, so we're going to select the player if you click on it, and then when you release the mouse cursor, if you release the left mouse button, the player will no longer be selected. And if you move the mouse, we're going to move the player to the mouse position. Ta-da! Oh, it's not letting go. Why aren't you letting go? Because, let me try something. I want the Clinex to be the center of the player. I want the player to be centered on the mouse cursor. So in order to do that, give the player some width and height. Well, no, we don't need to do that. Do this. No, wrong direction. Oh, no, it's not the wrong direction, it's just too much. It's so weird that it's not releasing. Doing the mouse up, but it's not getting into that section. Oh. It's not reporting which button was just released. Let's take a look at that event. Anything we can use in there? I mean, buttons are 0 because no buttons are pressed. That, oh, the which is useful. Which changes to 3 on a right mouse button release. So here's what we're going to do. And of course it's deprecated. Alright, JavaScript. always use it anyway. I don't like using deprecated things, though. It says use e.button, but I thought that was set to 0. Is that a bug? Oh, no. It's set to 2. We can use button. Set to 2. That's weird, though. The problem is when we have the mouse down event, well, button is also set to 2. So button 0, button 2. Alright, we're going to use button, not which. I'm convinced. And that will allow us to do this. I think. Excuse me, I should be doing 0, not 1. Alright. And there we go. We can move our player around. We can walk him. We can drag him. I am satisfied with that. And I think that wraps up everything I'm going to try to do this episode. So, we have some sprites. Let's, I think the next useful thing to work on will probably be to get some kind of user interface up on the screen. Dispense with the console and start writing using the font set built into the font built into our title set. That one, right there at the bottom. So we'll look at that next time. Thanks for joining me.